All right, we're live. Sorry about this this angle, but wasn't really sure how to film this. Let's try this. Okay. So again, sorry about the angle. Trying to show you guys some shop maintenance, bike maintenance tips, and do a question and answer at the same time here. So today I'm going to show you guys how to mount a 21-inch front off-road tire, knobby tire. Unfortunately, I already have the tire off of this rim, so I'm just going to show you the install. Yeah, let's get started. I'm going to run through the tools with you guys here. I don't have anything fancy. I have my personal preference tools. Try different kinds of tire irons. These are what work for me. The speed breaker I'm going to show you is really handy, easily carryable. Yeah, so let's get into it. What are you going to need to mount your tire? So obviously you need your rim and your tire. Talk more about this tire here in a second and why I'm doing this. You're going to need a couple of wrenches. 12 is going to be your valve stem nut, and anything from a 10, a 12, a 14. If you're on a KTM, it's going to be a 13, your rim lock. So you need a couple of wrenches, a little valve stem core removal tool. Has this little fork in it. I don't know if you guys can see this very well. That's going to let you make sure there's no air in the inner tube. Just make sure nothing's keeping this tire on here and fighting you. You're going to need tire irons. These are my personal favorite, these Motion Pro spoons. They have this little curve here. I've tried the big looping ones. I like these more. They're, I carry these in my backpack on longer rides, on group rides, just in case. They hardly take up any space. They're nice and light, and they really grab the rim or the tire. And get the job done really well. This is not necessarily a necessity, but again, personal preference. I love this this Bead Pro by Motion Pro. I am not supported in any way by Motion Pro. They just make good products. So this is a bead breaker. It also has some little tire spoons here. Not the best, but in a pinch they do work. So you take this guy, you shove them in here, the little fork, and then you take the pry bar, get it in there, and it's going to pop the bead down. Separate the bead from the rim and let you get your tire irons in there. So that's personal preference. I carry personally on long rides. Obviously, the wrenches I might need one of these valve core tools, set of tire irons, and the bead breakers. If we're down in West Virginia at Hatfield riding, at least one of us in the group is going to have a 21-inch front tube, heavy duty tube, and somebody will have an 18. If there's anybody with a 19-inch rear wheel, they're going to have to carry that. So we always make sure we're prepared. You're also going to want some sort of lubrication. This is really simple. It's just a spray bottle from Lowe's with water and soap, a lot of soap. So that you need this. You're not changing a tire without some kind of lubrication. Going to need a pair of gloves that you don't care about trashing. Some form of air. And a couple towels. So that's what you're going to need. These are the tools that I recommend. Again, I'm not supported by Motion Pro or Lowe's. If anybody from either of those companies is watching, I'd love to be supported by you guys. These Motion Pro tools are just really good, and it doesn't matter that they don't financially support me. I'm going to recommend what I like to use and good products for you guys. So we'll get started on this here in a second. This is a combination video, so if you guys have any questions about the Big Buck GNCC, how I did, how I rode, how all that went, what I'm doing to get better, that kind of stuff, throw it in the chat. Any questions about the big week I have coming up here in Daytona, 10 days and 6 races, 4 flat tracks. It's going to be 3 half miles. Oglethorpe isn't considered a half mile anymore, but it's a really long short track. Volusia's a half mile and then a short track at Marion County. I've never been there to Marion County, so that'll be a lot of fun. I've seen some videos. That looks like a really good track. And 2 GNCCs. Never been to either of these either. Palatka, Florida. Dealing with some sand, some big nasty roots down there. That's why I'm putting this tire on here. We'll get to that in a second too. And then on the way back up here to Ohio, hitting up the general at Aonia Pass. Never been to that one either. Some Georgia red clay. Hopefully it doesn't get too beat up by the afternoon race when I'm out there. I'm not holding my breath. But if you have any questions about any of that stuff or anything else, throw it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer that. All right, let's go over this tire real quick before I start mounting it here. So right now on the bike, it's just behind me over here out of frame. I have one of these Shinko 90/90 profile all arounds, 216. I think it's a 216 all around. Yeah, 216 MX all around tire. It's a 90/90 profile. This wheel is off of my KTM here. But it's the same tire, same profile. This is a really good, as it says in the name, all-around tire. Again, not supported by Shinko, but I'll recommend the products that I like, even if the company doesn't support me. So that's an all-around tire. It's a 90-90, so it's a 90 wide and then 90 tall. This I had laying around. It's a Dunlop MX33F. This is a soft terrain sand mud tire, like we're going to be seeing in Florida for the GNCC. So I had it. I had this rim here. This had a nice tire on it this morning, or an hour ago actually. Went over there after work, pulled it off. Came back here to do this. So I had this soft terrain tire, figured I'd throw it on the spare wheel, take it down to Florida with us, look at what the track's doing, and see. This is an 80-100 tire, so it's a little bit narrower this way than this 90-90 over here. It's a little bit narrower, and it's a little bit taller. So that should work out pretty well, not boating around too much in the sand. Dig in a little bit. Help me out. I'm going to need all the help I can get. To be honest, I'm not a sand racer. And 3 hours is a long race. So, all right, let's get started here. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat about anything. I'll answer them. I'll try and show you guys the best that I can what I'm doing every step of the way to help you guys out. As you can see, I'm not using fancy tools. I'm not up on a stand or anything. This is very similar, except for the padding, to what you'd be doing on the side of a trail if you got a pinch flat or a hawthorn or whatnot. In the unfortunate event that you got a flat, this is what you would be doing. So this is a rotational tire. So I'm going to find the rotational mark. It's got this arrow here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's an arrow. It's rotating this way. Grab my rim. The front disc is on the left, as with almost any bike. So I am going to be careful here. Not being on a stand, I don't want to put the disc down and risk bending the disc here. So I'm going to be careful that I'm putting the rim in like this with the rotation correct. And then I'm going to plop it down here and get to work. So that being said, get some lube on this guy. This soapy water is your best friend. Anything you can do to get the sticky tire to slide on the rim, it's going to help you a lot. So here, I'll show you this again. What I was just doing was taking the rim lock and getting the rim lock inside the tire here. That's the first thing that you want to do. Just make sure your rim lock is in the right place. So there's different ways to do this. this is my way, the way that I learned how to do it. There's other ways where you put the tube inside the tire and then do this process. This is just the way that I do it. It works better for me. Try the different ways, see what works better for you. So now that my rim lock's in here, I can go ahead and start working this tire around. And I did this backwards. I said I didn't want to the disc down. What did I do? I made it so the disc could be down. So rotating this way. Oh boy. Rotating that way, rotating that way. There we go. You can use your body weight to push this bottom side bead around as much as you can. You want to kind of work it, you know, your rim lock is going to keep the opposite side bead from going into dropping into the center of the rim. You really want the opposite side to be in the center of the rim. It's going to give you just that little bit extra on the opposite side to push that bead over. So my rim lock's here. I'm going to work around this way so that right next to the rim lock is the last place that I'm going to put on here. These dirt bike tires are pretty stiff. So a flat track tire, for instance, I can usually push on this first side without any tools. These stiff tires, these stiff sidewall tires, you're gonna need to just grab your, oh, and as I'm saying that it's not gonna be easy, it pops right on. So you can see that the tire is now halfway on. So the rim is here, the bead is here. So now we're going to grab our brand new heavy duty tube. Unwrap it a little bit. Take the cap off. All right, this is really important. There's two nuts here on your valve stem. The cap is right here. You're going to take the first nut off, and you want to leave this second nut here, right where it is. Just leave that there. Since this is a brand new tube, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of air in it and just get it to shape up a little bit before I get it in there. It'll help me not pinch the tube between the tire irons and the rim while I'm prying the tire on. While we're on the topic of pinching tubes while you're mounting tires, don't be afraid to fail. I've mounted over 100 tires and I've pinched my fair share of them. I still pinch them. Hopefully, knock on wood, I'm not going to today, but I still pinch them. You're gonna pinch your first one, maybe your first few, but as you get the feel for it, you'll pinch fewer and fewer and be able to do this faster and faster. So don't be afraid to fail. Everybody does. There's a learning curve just like anything else. Some people like to take baby powder. They get their inner tube like this, and then they cover it in baby powder. The idea behind that is that the slippery baby powder will help the tube, and it'll help the tube slide on the tire and the rim, so that in the event of a hard collision with a rock or something, where you might get a pinch flat, that the inner tube would be able to slide, get out of the way. I don't do it. I just don't think it will help that much. I suppose if you're running extra low tire pressure, you might want to do that. But the lowest I run is 11 or 12, and that depends on the speed of riding. If I'm doing some more hard enduro technical stuff, I'll go down in pressure. If I'm gonna do like a hair scramble or a GNCC where I'm high speed, I'm gonna run into stuff, I'm gonna smack stuff with the front wheel, I'm going up to, if it's dry, 14, 15 PSI. So personal preference, I don't do the baby powder. So you saw I took the valve stem core out with my little tool. By the way, you can buy these tools to do this. I just made one. It's a little short, like car side-by-side ATV valve stem and this metal cap with the core removal tool on it. And I just cranked this baby down. Grab both sides with a plier, with pair of pliers, tighten it down. There you go. Nice and cheap. So I'm going to go ahead. The hole for the valve stem is right here. So I'm going to get this in here first. This is where you're going to want your gloves for sure. So you see I put in about this much of the tube with the valve stem in the middle into the tire. Now I'm going to flip the wheel up like this. I'm going to reach my hand in here. And I'm going to try and get the valve stem to come out of that hole. Sometimes it helps if you can get . get your tire iron, pull the bead back a little bit from this side, and you can see in there. You can get the valve stem to poke through. You can see it's just barely poking through here. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to take the nut and I'm just going to thread it on here. Just enough to hold it. You want the nut on the end of the valve stem just enough to hold it from pulling back out as you put the tube the rest of the way in. And work the tire on the rest of the way. Important here with the rim lock, you want to make sure that your tube is over the top of the side of the rim lock. Looks a little bit like this with the rim here. You don't want your tube here. No, you're going to pinch it. You're going to have a flat. You want to make sure you push it all the way up into the center of the rim lock. So as I work my way past, I'm making sure that the tube is up on the center of the rim lock. New tubes are always fun to install because they're nice and sticky. They don't have any dirt or grime on them, so they stick to everything that you're trying to slide them past. No questions yet? Come on, guys. I feel like I'm talking to a wall. The more meticulous you are at this stage when you're getting the tube in the right place, the better. You're going to save yourself some time. Spend an extra couple minutes here to really make sure that the tube is in the right place, and you'll save yourself pinching it and having to take the tire back off to replace the inner tube or patch it if possible. That's another thing. Some people are against patching tubes. Why? If your patch holds air, run it. I'm sure the company that makes the tubes you're buying loves you for never patching a tube, but patch it, run it. We carry patches out on the trail just in case. We carry a tube and patches just in case. All right, I'm pretty happy with where my tube is now. It's down on the bottom side of the tire, away from this top edge of the rim. It's on the correct place of the in relation to the valve stem. So and you can see that the valve stem here is perpendicular to the rim. You don't want it cocked sideways this way or that. Even with the rim lock, you can still spin the tire on the rim, and if your valve stem is already at an angle, you're setting yourself up for disaster. As that tire spins, it's going to pull the tube with it, and it's going to decapitate your tube. It's going to rip the valve stem off of the tube, and you're going to get a flat. And that's not a patchable flat either. So if you do end up with your stem at an angle here after you put the tube in, you can spin the tire a little bit. You can work it around, and sometimes you can get that to straighten out. So bear that in mind. So I'm going to start putting the tire on opposite my rim lock. The reasoning for that is the rim lock is going to keep the bead of the tire up, and it's not going to let it drop down into the drop center of the rim like we talked about earlier. So that's going to allow me to have the side where I start down in the center and have that little bit of extra room to get the last couple bites over without any issues. So get our lube, our best friend here. That. So we're gonna directly opposite the rim lock. Carefully, I just want to, if my finger here is the rim, I just want to slide the tip of this spoon over so that it grabs and pulls. I don't want to do one of these. If I do that, this is going to swing down, and the end of the iron is going to swing down. It's going to grab the tube, pull the tube around, and you're going to pinch it in there, and you're going to have a flat. So that's the biggest mistake that people make. The first few times you do this, I still make that mistake, is just getting overly anxious with it and in a rush and not paying attention to where my spoons are and pinching that tube. So I'm just taking small bites here. Again, being careful with the ends of the spoons. I'm going to end up right about here. This is going to be the last little bit to push over the rim. And I'm going to put my knees right here on this part I already have in, and I'm going to force it down into this deep center. A little bite here, a little bite there, working my way around. Over here, I'm starting to get to the rim lock here. This is the rim lock. And this is the valve stem right here. You don't want to go right at the valve stem here, and you don't want to go right at the rim lock. So I'm going to take a little bite before the rim lock. This should stay here. It might launch and smack me in the face and be funny. I'm going to make sure my rim lock is pushed back as much as I can get it. And I can visually see that my tire is going between the rim and the rim lock, which is perfect. I'm going to take another little bite here. See? See, it could have smacked me. You got to keep your head up. Put a little bit more soapy water on here. I'm going to go back here, make sure this is nice down in the center here. Put my leg over this spoon, keep it right there. And I'm just going to work this one in. This is where you are most likely to pinch your tube. It gets hard right here at the end. You're pulling harder and harder. And like you're going to see right here, I'm going to have to force the spoon in here. The tire is pushed up against the outside of the rim. I'm going to have to squeeze the iron in here. This is where you're most likely, it's going to force, let go. And you're going to end up with the spoon way in there. Here, I'll show you. You're going to end up with your spoon way in here. What you want to do is you want to slowly wiggle it back out and feel. You'll be able to feel where that cup on the spoon is right there on the edge of the rim. That's right where you want it. Then you're going to slide it over to the side you want to get down. Nice and easy. And then this last little tiny bit here, you can just pop it down like that. So this is mounted, okay? Don't now go and tighten your rim lock. No. What we're gonna do is we're gonna screw in this nut on the valve stem, put our quart in, nice and easy, not cross-threading it. Tighten her up. Now, I don't have a compressor here in my garage, so I'm going to lube up the rim and tire again really well with my soapy water, and then I'm going to put a bunch of air in it. If you have a really stubborn tire that does not want to seat, the bead does not want to seat on the rim correctly, let all of the air back out, push the bead back, and get your soapy water down in there as fast as you can, and put a bunch of pressure in there. That's going to help a lot. So I'm going to skip the step of trying it the first time. And I'm just going to lube this up really well the first time. And get a little bit of a workout in here. You also at this point want to start to listen for leaks, like a psst, or even a small little air leak, like a pinhole. You're going to hear a little bit of that as the tube expands and forces the air out. But anything, once your tube is up to 20 PSI, you're not going to have any more of that. So if you hear any leaking above that 20 PSI, you have a problem. You probably pinched your tube. You should be able to hear some tires when the bead seats, it'll smack up against the rim and you'll hear it. Some of them just slide real nice out. You're not going to hear it, but you can see it. So this one, for instance, this all around here seated real nice, and I was waiting for this right here to seat. I'll show you that in a second. And it just, I watched it slide up. It didn't smack up. So we're going to check the other side. See this all nice and seated. That was really easy. It's got about 30 PSI in it with the soapy water lube all around it. It will be that easy sometimes. It's not always. Some of the flat track tires that I run, it doesn't matter how much lube is on them. It doesn't matter how you try and help it. You have to put 80 to 120 PSI in there to get the tire to seat. So when I talk about seating, tires have this kind of a shape here. This is where the rim sits. They have this kind of a shape here, right on this part of the tire. So you want to make sure that the rim is going to start by sitting up here. And you want to make sure that the rim slides down and its flat face is on the flat face of the bead of the tire itself. You can see that by looking around here at these rings, and it should be nice and round, and the ring here on the tire should be equal distance from the edge of the rim all the way around the tire on both sides. Sometimes you'll have one side that's seated and the other side's not. Keep adding pressure, and that other side will come out. So I can see that my tire's all seated up real nice. I don't hear any leaking, so my tube is intact. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to leave the 30 PSI in here. 30 PSI is not a lot. If you have to go up to 50, 60, 70, 80, 120, whatever, to get your tire to seat, then you're definitely going to want to take that down to 20 or so. You don't want to leave that much pressure in there for that long. It's a lot of stress. You don't want to put that on your rim or your tube. I've made that mistake before. I mounted a tire, flat track tire, had to put that 120 PSI in there. Didn't think about it, left it out overnight, walked out there the next day, it popped the inner tube. So you definitely don't want to leave a lot of pressure in there for an extended period of time. So now that my tire is seated, there's air in the inner tube. I can see that my rim lock is pushed away from, like it's pushed down against the tire by the inner tube out here. It's pushing it in there. That's perfect. If the rim lock is trying to kind of like suck up into the tire there, you know that your tube is in the wrong place in there, and you're going to want to take your tire off, get that tube in the right place there before you do anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten up my rim lock. I know that this one is a 10 millimeter. You don't have to you don't have to over tighten this. You want it definitely tight, but you're not going to put a breaker bar on here and go until something breaks. The rim lock is your last line of defense from spinning your tire. The bead should keep the tire from spinning, but if something happens, you say you get a pinch flat and all the air goes out, the bead is going to slide, and your rim lock is hopefully going to keep your tire from spinning and destroying your tube until you can stop and fix that flat. Desert racers and people who run bib mousses, foam inserts instead of inner tubes, will oftentimes run 2 and even 3 rim locks to keep that tire from spinning. So I'm pretty happy with how tight that is. This tire's mounted, ready to go. Let's just do a sanity check on my rotation. Wherever it is. Where is this arrow? There it is. Front brake's on the left, rotating that way as we're moving. It's perfect. It's ready to go. So I'm lucky to have these extra rims around. As I said earlier, this particular rim had a ice tire on it. So I went ahead and took that off since I'm going to be racing this YZ250F a lot this year. It's nice to have options. If you don't have extra rims that you can take set up like I have, then you're going to want to take an extra tire, or if you can. Like I said, I have the same 90/90 all-around tire on the bike now. This would probably work fine in Florida, but I had sitting around here on my shelf, my tire shelf, this sand mud tire. So I know this is going to work better, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this on the bike. If I didn't have this extra rim, I would go ahead and mount this tire, and I'd take the 90/90 as a spare. The other advantage of having these spare rims, I only have a front for this bike, I don't have a rear, is if in that 3-hour GNCC, if I did get a flat, I'd be able to limp it back to my pits, pull that wheel off, throw the spare wheel on, and go again and finish out the race. My KTM here that I keep using the rim as an example. This is actually my A set of rims here with this 90/90 on it. Right now I have a set of rims on there with my spike tires for winter riding here in Ohio. That's really nice to have. Changing ice tires and spike tires, carbide studded tires, is a pain. They are so stiff. The ice tires are like razor blades. So you walk away bloody like you got in a fight with a mountain lion. So having these extra rims is really nice. I got my spare set of rims for my KTM off of Facebook Marketplace for a really good deal. Luckily, I was able to pick those up a couple years ago. I recommend having spare parts around You never know when you're going to bend something, break something. I actually broke some spokes in the rear wheel on the KTM and was able to go back to the truck, or in this case to my house, and just change out that wheel, go back out and ride, rather than have to call it quits, wait, order parts, order those spokes, pull the wheel apart, fix it, all that. Was able to save that ride and use my spare wheel while I was waiting for the parts. Yeah, so if there's not any questions about anything, I hope this helped. If you have any questions, let me know. You can send this YouTube channel a message, 5.8 Racing YouTube channel a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Or you can head over to the Facebook page, 5.8 Racing, and send us a message there. If there's no questions, then that's it. Please subscribe and check out the Big Buck GNCC video posted earlier today. And yeah, see you guys next time.